it looks like you're here ready to listen, ready to learn, ready to take notes, ready to benefit from this really great group of visitors. So I would also like to thank those from Oracle, and specifically the Oracle Applications Users Group, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
And they're here from all over the country, not just from the Bay Area, but I met a couple who were here from Boston, one was from Maryland, and have I covered everybody? So all over, they're coming from all over to help you to learn more about what they do, and I think you'll find it to be very useful. I would also like to point out that this has taken a lot of work and recognize the efforts of the MSBA Analytics organization, the student organization that has put a lot of time and effort into this, the management department and department chair, Vish Edgy, who has been really instrumental in this, and Zanobi, where's Zanobi? I don't know if I can say his last name correctly, so I just call him Zanobi.
It's okay.
He is.
You can say Dr. Z. That's how I recognize.
Dr. Z sounds good to me. And it's really good to see him. He's been doing a sabbatical this semester, so it's good to see him back on campus. And he was a big reason why this event has occurred. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for being here. I hope you learn as much as you can. This is a great opportunity for you to pick up some great advice from a company that has many, many years of experience in the technology world. And so with that, enjoy the day, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dean Lowe. And just briefly, I want, on behalf of the Department of Management, welcome all of you, and especially Oracle Applications Group, all the people coming from all the way from Boston to the Bay Area, and all the students from MSBA as well as the Business Analytics Club. The students put together a lot of effort in there. I want to welcome you all. And I want to mention a couple of quick facts. And the management department, we have been very active in terms of collaborating with the technology industry and incorporating the technology into our curriculum. We have a long history. Before I joined, Dr. Z is instrumental, for example, working with Oracle corporations, and the Oracle corporations gave us the Oracle ERP suite, database, and it was incorporated into our operations supply chain management curriculum. Later, we launched information technology management in the department. Again, lately, Master of Science in Business Analytics. We are one of the very early campus in the Bay Area to launch MS program in Business Analytics. We completed third year, this is the fourth year. So we have more than, probably I lost count of how many exact students, probably 170 plus students right now in our program. And we are very glad to claim that we have been successfully integrating the technology into our curriculum. And also I want to definitely thank here the Oracle folks put together an excellent program in a matter of what, 2 months?
Yeah, very quickly.
Very, very quickly. And with that, without taking much time, I want to really hand over the mic. I know that we are a few minutes late, so let's keep going. And let's have a great day and great information and discussions. I wish all of you a great day and a good discussions. Please.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone, my name is James Hobbs, and I would like to also thank you all for being here. And I'd really like to very formally thank my colleague from Oracle Academy, Tara Crockett, who was instrumental in introducing OAUG into the university here, and to Dr. Z, who has been absolutely phenomenal to work with. So as an event planner, you have made my life very, very easy, and that is what I like. And there were a lot of great volunteers here this morning. My job with the Oracle Applications User Group is their marketing and events director. So I have a very different role where many of you are really going into the heavy technology side of things. I'm also an ex-Oracle employee. I started many, many years ago, And it was through the advice of my oldest brother, who is kind of a genius engineer guy at Oracle DBA, I was kind of lost with my art history degree after college and looking for things to do. And he said, you know, over at Oracle in the Dallas office, they need a temp to clean up closets and make coffee for their students. And I was like, yeah, I could use some extra money, so I think I'll go do that. And I remember the night before I started that job, I was sick to my stomach, thinking I could never go work for the man because I was an artist and had several other jobs that I was doing. And fortunately, I got through that, and here I am almost 25 years later, having been able to really forge forward with an amazing career in Oracle as an Oracle professional, working in a different capacity. But what I would like to illustrate for all of you is you might not always know exactly what you're going to do once you do leave the university, but this is an atmosphere and an ecosystem that really allows you to do just about anything you want. So as a non-technologist, the fact that I've been able to make a career and work with such outstanding professionals as everyone here at this table has really left me a very fortunate man. So I went in sales for a while, and then I found marketing and starting to do events. So I've been blessed. When I was at Oracle, I was able to run a developers conference all around the world for a couple of years. For those of you who might be familiar with Oracle Open World, which just took place, I was part of the Oracle Open World planning team. And from there, I also then discovered the world of user groups. Actually, my first event that I ran was for the OAUG. So I've been very blessed with 12 years at Oracle and now 13 years with OAUG. And Doug, that you'll hear a little bit from, is one of my bosses. He sits on the board of directors. And have been able to do a lot of great things. The reason that we're here today is to really help you all understand the kinds of resources that you will have access to after you graduate and you do get into the Oracle field. There's a lot more out there besides just the internet to glean information from. You will be able to make friends and partners and lifelong resources through your Oracle contacts that you have, as well as through all the friends and colleagues of the companies that you're in. OAUG is really a place where you can come and expand your breadth of contacts throughout the entire world, quite frankly. User groups are a very, very important aspect to the success of every company and their employees with their implementations and Oracle installs, because that's who you're going to be going to help make sure everything that you're doing is right, it's the most efficient, it's the most cost effective, and that you're really using the tools that your company has invested in to maximize their output. So with that being said, I would like to go ahead and hand the table over now to my very esteemed table colleagues here and let them tell you a little about what they do and how they got to be where they are. Liz?
Thanks, James. Good morning, everyone. It's very nice to be here on that Boston Road that everyone keeps referring to. Had a little bit of a marathon travel day yesterday, but was happy to do it. I started my day yesterday at a New England Oracle Applications User Group, which takes place at Gillette Stadium. It gathers about 400 attendees, and those attendees are people like ourselves here at the table, sponsorship from OAUG, users like Doug, partners like Mohan and myself. Oracle is a huge sponsor of that event, so it is a huge community, and it was an exciting way to start my day, and then getting into Logan and getting into LA and San Jose and Ubering to Mission Boulevard. Very exciting yesterday, so happy to be here. I wanted to just take one moment and show you guys in living color here, if you will, just a little bit of how we're all connected. Ooh, it's bright in my eyeballs, I'm going to stand right here. So as James was saying, we have our relationships, that we are all connected and how we are connected. If you start up here at the top, you see that Oracle is, let's call it the mothership, right? We have Oracle. You like that. And then Oracle has so many different subject areas, as James was referring to. There are the technologists at Oracle. There are the sales leaders at Oracle. There are someone that's very important to me, the channels and alliances at Oracle, who help my company, which is a partner of Oracle, doing implementation work. So just wanted to take a quick moment and draw this out for you. Oracle is Oracle. We all know that. Oracle Academy is very instrumental in the university realm, helping the universities to adopt and use and teach Oracle technology. Then we have the customer base. Doug here, even though he's instrumental as an OAUG board member, he's a director at the Johns Hopkins University. He'll tell you a little bit more about his bio, but he's a user and consumer of Oracle applications and technology. And you move down through here, the OAUG community itself. Most companies that are using Oracle to run their business day to day are invested in OAUG, as James mentioned, that network of support of resources to make sure that they get a healthy return on investment and their users have an outlet in their day-to-day use of technology. And then Mohan and I are part of the Oracle Partner Network, so we're the, I would like to say, boots on the ground doing implementation work. If a company needs a new financial system or inventory, manufacturing, distribution, whatever it is that makes their company tick, there's a network of partners categorized essentially by their expertise, and we go in and help the implementation work happen. Oracle has those resources as well, Oracle Consulting Services. So there's a lot of cooperation and competition in our world, and that's really an exciting dynamic of what we all do. So I just thought this would be a healthy visual to get everyone started with, to see how we all connect. So that's that part. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Hi everyone, my name's Doug Manning, and I work currently at Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab. As Liz mentioned, we have been using Oracle products for a very long time, since 1994. So we've gone through the whole Oracle product journey for decades. I didn't know what to expect this morning, but when I saw that Dr. Z and Vish gave us whiskey flasks, I kind of thought I was in the right place. So thank you for that. So one of my other positions, along with using Oracle products, is I'm the current president-elect for the Oracle Applications Users Group. That is an organization that's dedicated to helping users get the maximum benefit out of their Oracle product usage. It's been around since the 80s, and they've been doing great work in helping folks, like organizations like myself and others, to use Oracle products effectively. It's more of a customer-to-customer type of organization where you're actually really learning from other customers that use the products day in and day out. So I'm very excited to have the opportunity to lead that organization next year, and that's it, my standpoint.
Dr. Can you just tell me quickly about your position there at Johns Hopkins and also as a hiring manager? Those are some important details that should also be very important to all of you.
Yeah. So currently at Hopkins, I'm a project manager and I'm also a service manager. And what that means is I have people that work for me that actually develop Oracle code. They support the Oracle systems at the university. And we've been doing that, again, for decades. Also, I'm a hiring manager as well, so I'm very clued in terms of the people that we're looking for to hire for performing development work in this arena. And I've been doing that for many, many years. And we currently have 2 positions open right now. So we're looking for people to actually help our organization even expand its development work in the local field.
I think this is important for all of you to know about. He is going to be doing a presentation after this that is really going to help enlighten you to some interviewing skills, things that a man of his position are looking for that could very well be beneficial to you.
No, thanks, James.
Thank you.
Thank you, good morning. My name is Mohan Nair. I did not travel too far. I actually live just up in the East Bay, and I had a short drive this morning. Like Dr. Z and the Dean said, if it was better and cleaner, we would actually be able to see the bay. My role in this whole user group has been as a consultant. I've been a consultant all my life. I was for a very short while a user, but I've been consulting with Oracle applications and Oracle in general for the past 25 years. Just Oracle. I also do a lot of work with business process engineering and data analytics. And because I've been working with Oracle for a long time, that's always behind and along with me. But more than happy to share the knowledge, and looking forward to having a nice discussion with all of you. Thank you very much.
So I'm JP. I mean, my mom calls me Jean-Pierre, but everybody else is JP. We started in university when everybody thought it was way too long, therefore shortened. I'm originally from the Netherlands, so I'm still, we have an 11-year-old daughter, so my US education is up to middle school. I now understand how middle school works. That's about as far as I get. I still haven't quite figured it all out. I guess we'll do high school next. I've been with Oracle since '97. I stopped counting, so I'll just give you the birth year. Interestingly enough, however, it's my 4th job. And so I've done consulting. I did data warehouse implementations on e-business suite and things like that in the Netherlands. And then I moved to product management and went to my 3rd product now. So starting products is pretty cool. Building them out is pretty cool. The nice thing of doing it at a single company, Oracle, the mothership, is really big. You can switch around, you can move around, you can do all sorts of things. The nice thing of doing it at a single company is that you don't have to start all the way from scratch. Like, you can leverage your relationships and you can start innovating without trying to first innovate in relationships and find people to sponsor and all of that stuff. I found that pretty interesting, and it's one of the interesting things of working at a big company like Oracle. I live in Belmont, so my commute to work is about a mile. If the traffic lights are green, it takes about 1.3 minutes. The commute back typically is 20 minutes because everybody stands in line for the freeway on-ramp. So I should probably walk, but hey, what can you do?
Maybe not today.
Yeah, no, today was so that's kind of it. Like, I'm doing product management for Oracle's big data stack right now. We started the business in 2011 with like 4 developers and a product management. We're up to like 50 people and 5 product managers now, probably in a $75 to $100 million revenue. It's a pretty exciting journey, and leveraging Oracle's resources is very interesting because you get going, like I said, right away. We do hire, and we hire across the board, right? We look at like product management, which we often look for people who have done a little bit of consulting or have done a little bit of customer work. We do hire them straight out of school as well. It's a little bit of an interesting journey as to how you get to product management. Development is obviously a little bit easier, so we hire developers as well in the Hadoop space, in the database space, and whatnot. And I'm sure we'll talk more about some of those things going forward. But that's a little bit about me. Like I said, I've been in Oracle for a while, but now my 4th job. So, there you go.
Thank you so much. I think one of the most important opportunities you have now is you have a vast array of knowledge at this table. And as you are all really starting to prepare for this next journey that you have in your lives, this is a great opportunity to ask questions. You've got hiring managers, you've got Oracle product people, you've got consultants, you've got sales. You've really got the whole gamut here that can really help drive any of you guys into a good direction. And even after this is done, you feel free to come up to them and ask even more questions. Is there anyone right now that has a specific question for any of our professionals here?
So folks, we're basically opening for a Q&A session. In case you have any questions related to our today's discussion, please open.
Yeah, so like you explained, when you hire product managers as well as developers and I think I was loud enough.
This is very good.
So yes, like you mentioned, you hire product managers as well as developers. So I wanted to know, for analytics, what kind of skills you specifically look, in the portfolio, the kind of work you're looking for, etc., for product management in analytics?
So I don't think it truly matters whether it's analytics or big data or database or whatnot. Some people disagree with me, by the way, right? Some people think specialisms are interesting. I think in product management, you look for a generalist. I don't think you look for deeply technical. You look for a balance between, let's call them soft skills and more technical skills. Because ultimately, as a product manager, you have two jobs. One job is to translate to developers who do not necessarily have ever seen a customer, to basically explain why certain things have to behave like that, how they work. So you're an intermediary between a user and somebody who has to go write code to make that user's life not miserable but pleasurable. And so that's one of your jobs. The other job is to go out and basically explain to people and customers and partners how stuff works, why yours is better, blah, 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 all of those things. So you have this odd job of having to understand what a developer is going to do and how he or she is going to do it, and translating things. So we look much more less towards resume to some extent, like, oh, I have done these classes. It's like, okay, we look for fundamentals. Do you understand fundamentals in science and all that stuff? Because you'll need them. But then, have you expanded your world vision? Like, have you expanded and are you familiar with concepts? And can you explain concepts? And can you translate concepts and stuff like that? So it's a lot more softer than the other things we look at. Whereas in development, you look at, okay, can you solve this logical algorithm? Like, we do parallel processing, how does this work? Can you figure out, can you tell me, can you show me, can you explain this and write the code? Right? In product management, you're really bridging that. It's a very hard job to hire for. It's also a very hard job to build a resume for, if you think of it like that. That's why we always look, not always, that's why your first job, if you go into, for example, sales consulting or something like that, you get to do some of these things. You have to talk to a client, you have to explain things, you have to do some of that stuff. That helps building up those skills. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Really helps, but it's conceptually that way.
I can add a few things to that, just in the scope of hiring and interviewing and what companies out there are looking for. There's always so many different perspectives to take that from. If you look out there on any of the job boards today, you'll see that some companies are looking to hire based on the culture that you want to join. Some are adamantly saying you must have X, Y, and Z in terms of a degree, a certification, or be able to be in a certain location and apply your skill set. You never know exactly what any one company's hiring theory will come down to. There's so many companies out there right now that are simply trying to create a culture versus necessarily saying you have to have a certain set of skills coming in the door, because the company wants to create a community of people that they believe are ambitious with a foundation that they can build and grow from. And there are so many different opportunities in the technology space to come from. I started as a recruiter. The way that I got into Oracle, I applied for an administrative assistant job, and it turned out that I talked my way into an Oracle recruiting position because I was very lucky. I saw an Oracle magazine on a table, and my mother's been implementing Oracle for 25 years with Capgemini, so things just clicked. That may not happen for everyone, but the point that I'd like to just follow up on, and for your question and from what JP said, really having your resume and your LinkedIn and your social media platforms articulating who you are, what your foundation of your qualifications are, and what you want to do, and what you can bring to a company is very, very important for any type of position that you might be looking for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I could add a little bit more to that too. And I don't want to steal all the thunder from my session at 10 o'clock. We'll be diving a little bit deeper into that. Okay, thank you. So, as JP mentioned, where he's at, they're not just looking for skill sets, they're looking for people that have sort of innate intelligence that can overcome and, thank you. Yeah.
All those good words, we want to realize.
All right, overcome challenges on the job site. And as Liz mentioned, there's not, you'll see Glassdoor, Indeed, some of those big job boards out there, they're looking for specific skills. Obviously, that's important for a lot of positions, but when you really get down to it, as a hiring manager, like I am, you're looking for team fit as well. Will this person that I'm bringing into my team, will they fit with that team? Okay? And another thing is, will I be able to invest in this person with my limited training dollars? Will I be able to invest in them and see a return? So it's not just skill sets, it's not just innate intelligence, but a lot of it has to do with the human factor and team factor.
Thank you.
I have one more question for Jean-Pierre. You mentioned that you're working on a big data stack. Can you elaborate a little bit more in terms of your 50 so people? Like, are you doing the whole stack, or I'm just curious in terms of how that divided between your product managers as well?
Sure. So we, for a number of things, we actually package something from a company called Cloudera. So we take the open source Hadoop stack and package that. So we actually automate and administer and do a bunch of that stuff, which some of our developers do. We make the Oracle SQL engine actually work on unstructured data in Hadoop and NoSQL and whatnot. So we have a team that actually does that, which is hardcore query optimization. It's Java and C combined. We probably have about 45 developers. I would say that about 25 of them do SQL engine stuff, things like that. We probably have about 15 people who do platform and cloud automation and cloud infrastructure and orchestration and stuff like that. And we have 4 product managers now. And we tend to do a product manager per product. I'm the unlucky one or lucky one, depends how you look at it. I get to do 2 products, which is not good for your health, by the way, so don't try to do that. And so that's kind of the makeup of the team, and we do the full stack. And if you look at our transition to cloud, we do more and more of the full stack, which includes upgrading OS and Java and all sorts of stuff like that. So we have development roles across hardcore C, Java, integration, instrumentation, and all of that, just in that 50 people team essentially. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but that's kind of how it makes up. And the product managers basically own a product and drive the requirements as well as the go-to-market and things like that.
Hi, this question is also for JP. You brought up project management, and I was very curious. How does Oracle or your group identify the need for a new product? And also, how much research go into the product before the development? And how fast would the product be rolled out into the market? And subsequently, is there a problem with interest or demand where the need was identified in the lag time the product gets released?
Wow, okay. How do we identify the need for a product? It's a number of things. It is, in many cases, customer driven. Like you see problems or you see people trying to solve things and we have nothing to solve that with. Sometimes it's actually driven out of research, where you start to see kind of macro trends, right? Where you start to see people moving or trying to ask you questions. How do I put certain formats in a database? Just talk about big data, for example. And the answer is, well, they don't really fit. Okay, so where do they go then? It's like, oh, good question. New product. Right? So you just invented a new product because somebody has a need that says all of this stuff out of digitization needs to go somewhere. Where do we put it? Okay, let's go build something that looks like Hadoop or HDFS or whatever it is. So people find needs based on what customers are doing, essentially. How fast, how much research then goes into it, it depends a little bit. Most things start with an idea and we start implementing the idea. Don't assume that product managers know what the world looks like 2 years from now or 5 years from now. We, like anybody else, just guess. And so you start effectively implementing and then looking for feedback, right? You give it to people who do consulting, you give it to people who are solving business problems, you get feedback. And sometimes that is like, what are you guys thinking? It makes absolutely no sense. You're like, oh, okay. You still keep on going because if one person says it doesn't make any sense, that doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Right? Removing buttons from a phone sounds like a bad idea to people. But you keep on driving forward, and sometimes it's a leap of faith. But you do get feedback and you do adjust. And I think that's a big shift that happened over the last 15 years, where we do a lot less monolithic, invent, build, don't share, people in building now release and go, yay, we've done it. It's much more iterative, feedback driven, and we release in much faster increments and things like that. So agility is genuinely important. Timing is even more important, and it's the hardest one to get right. When we started our big data products in 2011, we basically built an engineered system for Hadoop. And in 2012, everybody said, like, you guys are a bunch of idiots. Like, Hadoop is self-healing, it's easy, like, it's all a bunch of open source software. Why on earth would I need appliance? And we were like, no, but it's clustered software, it's not going to be easy, we do all of this work for you. Like, like we were told literally for 2 years, we're idiots, right? But that's fine. We learned from databases that this is not easy. So sometimes you have to endure. Had we started 2 years later, we had saved ourselves the 2 years of pain, essentially, to get this product going, but we'd also suffered and not have the experience. So timing is important, going to market is important, earlier is better than later, in my opinion, because you learn from being early. You have to adjust. Time to market is anywhere from 3 months to 6 to 9 months, I would say, maybe 12 months. First releases are easier than second releases, because the first release you just write new code and solve the problem and move on. The second release has to make sure the old stuff doesn't break, and so now you have to think about stuff and whatnot. And as products get older, release times get longer because you have an installed base and things like that. So invention, easy, productization, a little harder, sustainable business, sometimes painful. I'm not sure if I answered all of them. That was 4 or 5 of them, but the hardest part, by the way, of product inception is convincing people there is a need. Right? The fact that I think you have to make something, or that I think we need to do something, doesn't mean Uncle Larry just gives me 45 people and say, here you go, knock yourselves out. Right? You convince people, you sell it to people, you get people to say, yeah, it's a good idea. Have you thought of that? You do all of that. And so the first 3 months of product inception are not writing code. They're like trying to get your own thoughts straight and to present it to people, get feedback, all of that stuff. And that is to some extent, interesting bits of it, right? Because it's like, what does an idea lead to and where does it go? But that's just hard work. And as with resumes and hiring, by the way, you got to get a number of rejections. Like the first person you talk to something about will say like, what? And that just happens, right? You also go for interviews.